Hello and welcome to another episode of Electric Moments. Now we're going to be looking at the natural next steps on your electric car journey in this episode. Electric car ownership is really the start of an incredible journey. We've lost count of the number of people who watch Fully Charged who have then gone electric and have woken up to the enormous array of possibilities when it comes to energy use.
The questions we might find ourselves asking are things like, where is the electricity in my EV coming from? How can I generate, use and store energy more efficiently? And what else can I do to lower my carbon footprint at home or on the move? It's actually really hard to keep up.
Now, despite the fact that on Fully Charged we are lucky enough to have a ringside seat to all these amazing new technologies, it is difficult to know where to start.
It's fair to say in the last year that the environment has come under sharp focus, and our friends at LeasePlan have been looking into all of this in detail. Of those that don't own an electric car, 90% have never actually driven one, but 4 out of 10 people say that they would be more likely to purchase an electric car if they could try before they buy.
Well, that's so important. I mean, in our experience, once people have driven an electric car, all the anxiety fades. And more often than not, it's the performance of the vehicle that makes them smile. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's called the EV grin, and that's the moment when people realise this is not a compromise, it's just a car, but a bit better.
The EV grin, I remember it well. But there are lots of things that made me smile about driving an electric car, especially when I drove one for the first time. But I think of everything, something I remember quite vividly is just quite how much I enjoyed using regenerative braking. I just really like the idea that even when you're braking a car, rather than just wasting that energy, you're putting it back into the battery, and that is so satisfying.
Yeah, no, that is a brilliant side aspect. And what surprised me most in this research is the impact that friends and family and neighbours had on inspiring other people to drive electric. That was really interesting.
Yeah, and actually it was my cousin who had an electric car before me, and she was this huge advocate. She really championed it, and that made me interested, for sure. In fact, nearly 3 in 4 EV drivers said that friends, family and neighbours had influenced them to get one, and almost 4 out of 5 EV drivers said that they know people who had come to them asking for advice. So it seems that electric car uptake is contagious.
Yeah, and I'm always interested in why people switch to electric cars, and it seems that a great many of them, they are influenced by seeing someone else driving an electric car.
Well, over half said that they switched because it's environmentally friendly, whilst just under half said that they made the switch due to cost savings. But are these perceptions actually a reality?
Well, I mean, if you're going to drive a car, then yes, clearly driving an electric car is a huge improvement over a combustion car, not just in terms of what it emits, but also that it is possible to power an electric car just from renewable energy. Don't need to burn anything, don't need to import any fuel. And yes, in terms of cost savings, electric cars is something of a revelation.
Yeah, the running costs of an EV are, well, they are insanely low compared to petrol.
I mean, it costs a fraction to fuel up an electric car, and it also costs a fraction to maintain an electric car. There's so many fewer moving parts in an electric motor.
Yeah.
The actual servicing cost, what you're really doing is you're looking after tyres, windscreen wipers and washer fluid, and that's about it.
That's so true. And I guess if you lease anyway, those initial upfront costs are less of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only objection which really holds water right now. I mean, EVs will get cheaper. They just will. But as you say, it's not buying it outright certainly lessens that impact. Because unfortunately, I mean, new technologies are always expensive when they're first introduced, and as they're then mass manufactured, the cost comes down. I mean, the same can be said for home technologies like solar panels and batteries.
But these technologies and electric vehicles are linked because it seems that one of them will inspire the other. Also interesting, 1 in 3 adults have been inspired by their local community to make more of an effort to live in an eco-friendly way. Well,
that's often the next step when people buy an EV. They suddenly take an interest in their energy tariff, for example. I mean, I didn't even know I had an energy tariff before I got an electric car. So you get interested in that. You get interested in insulating your home, in working out how to use less energy and how to generate energy on your home maybe and store energy in your home, those things all become much more important to you.
Yeah. 15% have made a green purchase, such as getting an EV or solar after somebody else on their street did, and 45% said that they were more likely to make some kind of green purchase if a neighbour had said they'd had a good experience. So it's catching.
Well, it looks like there's going to be a big market for these technologies in the future. So let's talk to someone who knows.
So the reason I went electric was because of my daughter. When she was born, looking at her, I decided actually maybe I should try and do better for her and better for the next generation of kids, just trying to make things, leave her something as opposed to the pollution and all the other things I'd been doing previously. And the hope is that when I face her or my grandkids later on, they ask me what I did, I can show her all the things that I did to try and make a difference. So we got our electric car in 2015, the first one, and we loved it. Me and the wife would fight over who got to drive the car. So for us, it was a real easy decision to buy a second electric car and go completely electric. And we've been completely electric in our household since 2019. So we love driving electric. I think it's just a very easy experience. For the most part, there's not much to think about. Once you get over that, how will I charge it piece, it's very simple. If you can plug in at home, you never have to think about it again. Day to day, you just get up in the morning, your car's charged, and away you go. So it's great. It's just the easiest thing. So what green technologies do I have? So we'll start with solar panels, and then we can go to a Tesla Powerwall battery. And then I have triple glazing. I have insulation throughout the house. I have low water flow taps. I've just recently installed air source heat pump, and we also do things like we compost where we can as well to reduce our waste. Even before you have an EV, go onto a green tariff. That should be the first thing I'd advise anyone. You can do that even before you get your car. And then when you've got an EV, look at an EV tariff where you have off-peak charging, because it will just make the cost, even though it's very small already, it'll make it even smaller if you can charge your car for pennies overnight. For new EV drivers, things like solar panels are great because you can charge your car from your own power that you can produce. And then technologies that sit alongside that are things like smart chargers that can take that excess power when you're not using it and put it into your car. And then in the future, there'll be things like vehicle to load, where your car can be a battery that you can store stuff in. And then at peak rate, when the price is high or the carbon is high, you can then use your own stored energy to power your house. So these technologies are definitely what we'd call disruptive. They definitely help change behavior, and which is great. For us, it's been things like doing electrical things like washing or dishwasher when the sun's out, or overnight when the grid is low energy, we will use cheap rate electricity, which is cheap and green, to do this. So that's definitely a behavioural change there. So tips for people considering green technologies would be, or the biggest one is to try and find people locally to talk to. There are people like the Transition Town movement. Transition towns, they're all over the country, all over the world, where you can go and talk to individuals in your local area who have done this. And then there are people like me who open up their houses on the Eco Open Houses Trail, where you can come into someone's house and look at this technology and look at how people can live with it and what they can do with it. I find lots of people come to me and say, since we've seen your house, or since we've seen that thing you wrote, or since we spoke to you on Facebook, we have bought solar panels, bought an electric car, we have moved to air source heat pump, we have done these things, just because I had the reassurance that someone else had done it first and that it wasn't impossible to do. So in my position, I see a lot of that, but I think anyone who's out there who's doing this is a positive force and should be praised.
That's some pretty inspiring stuff, and I know that I would love to electrify my home right now if I could.
Well, there are lots of incredible products and services out there, and there are quite a few things you can do quite cheaply to get started. I mean, not least switching to a sustainable energy supplier or installing a smart thermostat.
What's amazing though is that if you do decide to go down this path, you're also gently encouraging your friends, family and neighbours to do the same.
Yes, and from experience I can say it all starts with one single step.
Thanks so much to LeasePlan, who conceived and created this Electric Moments series with us. We hope it helps you with the start of your electric journey.
And as always, if you have been,
Thank you for watching.